Hi, Daniil. Good to have you on.
Hi, Arvin. Good to see you.
Good catching up. So, Daniil, you are a data analyst in the logistics industry for the kind of company Informel, and you are based in Odessa, and you're probably one of the very, very few people that is still tracking data of what's going on in the shipping industry. Measuring container shipments, like how the logistics are really changing in the country. Obviously, there's a lot of change, I imagine. So we're going to dive into it. So, why don't we, because it's so specific what you do, like give us a little bit of a sense, like what you're usually looking at before we dive into some of the issues.
Right. Yeah, importantly that myself and my team, we are still based in Odessa. We're still here, and we stay in touch with local stakeholders, including freight forwarding companies, shipping lines, other transport companies involved in logistics in Ukraine. Currently, what we are looking at specifically is container market of Ukraine. Um, and its logistics routes. It's the way it changes, and the way routes has changed, and especially foreign stakeholders are interested in knowing how exactly it works for today. Also, of course, we look at the grain deal development.
Right.
At this point, the grain deal is completely is completely stopped. It was discontinued.
So let's maybe like go into this elephant like straight away, because it's the big elephant
Yeah,
that's that everyone is kind of talking about. I mean, what do you make out of it? Okay, so like there wasn't no renewal of the agreement. Obviously, this is this agreement between the United States, United Nations. My bad.
yeah.
And maybe the United States as well. Who knows? And Turkey, Ukraine, and Russia. Right. So this one. Mhm.
Yeah, importantly that Ukraine wasn't directly involved into agreement between Turkey, Russia, and United Nations. Basically,
Right.
it's like two different agreements. But again, why I mention it, because it's very political deal.
Yes, yes, it's a very political deal. So now there are a lot of analysts that are saying, okay, the Chinese might come to the rescue. There might be a new deal happening. So, give us a little bit of sense, like, when you saw the news, and you obviously have the data on the ground, you have the local perspective, like, give us a thoughts a little bit on it.
Right. So um, probably everyone who is interested in the grain deal and in grain shipping from Ukraine was following the news, right? And I'm pretty sure they've seen the disruptions, and they've seen how Russia was always trying to um, suspend or decline the volume of Ukrainian grain coming on the international market, using different tools and leverage different things. Um, so what happened recently? So Russia withdrew from the deal, announcing that any bulk vessel that will be trying to enter Odessa ports or any other Ukrainian port will be a target, a military target. At the beginning of war in 2022, Russia has already targeted civilian vessels, merchant vessels. There are a few occasions, and they are documented and confirmed. So it gives a basis, right? It gives a ground for the market players to be actually worried, because it's already happened, right? So Russia can repeat it
Right.
easily. Right now, unfortunately, as far as I can see, there are no proper response to Russia, and there are no party in the Black Sea that is ready to address this aggression, including Turkey. Even though Turkey potentially, right, is capable of creating a safe passage for vessels that are willing to continue direct shipping to Odessa ports back and forth. But again, as I mentioned, it is very, very political deal, and many things, many parties involved in it. My expectation is that there will not be grain deal, at least for some period of time. Grain shipping will be completely stopped. It's already completely stopped, but it will be like that for a few months probably until certain conditions are met.
Because like, you know, like for what I'm wondering, like, what does it mean? Like, first of all, like what's the reaction by the locals, and what does it really kind of mean to you when you look at it? Because there's a lot of kind of, political commentary on it, but I think the political kind of commentary might not be so useful, right? So like your perspective might be quite different on this.
So obviously, it is what happens is Ukrainian economy is suffocating, right, over this problem that Ukraine is not able to ship out its grains, so it threatens the farming industry in general. If they don't make money this year, they won't be able to crop next year. It's very harming economy in general, but most of all, it's creating the disruption on the market. It's creating it's as we can see, prices on grain have risen by 10% recently, right? Just in a couple of days. We can see that shipping freight rates are also rising, as well as insurance rates, which all gonna eventually influence the price of food. And unless the world find a solution, it is inevitable that food crisis will be continued, and immigration probably will be increased. What I mean is the immigration from those key markets in Middle East and Africa, right? People will be fleeing from these regions to better places, for example, European Union. So this is what, in my opinion, Russia is intended to create crisis and additionally pressure the European Union as well as United Nations, creating this crisis in order to again push their agenda and make them do whatever they want. For example, lift certain sanctions, right?
Right. And when you talk with the people on the ground, like, did they expect this? Like local logistics companies, and like how did they prepare for this scenario?
Yeah, local companies have begun to develop infrastructure on the Danube River. Before that attack that took place 2 days ago on the Danube River, it was very safe place, and many companies such as Nibulon, it's a local farming trader.
So maybe let's go one step back. Like there was a drone attack 2 days ago. We are recording this on the 26th of July. Can you just give a little bit of like context what happened?
Yeah, just briefly. So 2 days ago happened first ever attack in the history of this war with multiple drones on ports of Reni and Ismail on the Danube River. Basically, it's just 200-300 meters from the administrative border of Romania and Ukraine. Very, very close to Romania. So what happened? They attacked grain storage facility and destroyed it. They attacked fuel storage facility, also destroyed, and they damaged various port infrastructure. And fortunately, nobody was killed, but 4 people injured. The area is full of international sailors. The river is packed with vessels, and it's very congested and dense area. I mean, dense in terms of vessels and people and cargoes. And you can just imagine if they keep targeting, let's say, oil storage facility, the ecology is in big threat because it's gonna leak in the river and then pollute everything up in the river, including NATO countries. It's also important to understand. But so that attack happened for the first time. Before that, there were no attacks. So stakeholders heavily invested into Danube River banks. They built their storage facilities for grains, for fuel, for all kinds of cargo. Before war, there were no container handling on the Danube River. Now it is the only place where Ukraine is shipping containers, import and export. It's a very important cluster, logistics cluster right now. European Bank of Reconstruction, EBRD, is looking at investing and helping that region to develop the port infrastructure and roads and other facilities to enhance Ukraine ability to export whatever we produce. However, right now, because of these attacks, and they're going to be recurring, that I believe they're going to be recurring until the solution is found or another agreement is made, and Russia will keep targeting our port infrastructure, everything around it.
So, because like the Danube River is like pretty much all of the facilities that were newly created were actually quite an alternative, right? I mean, obviously they cannot replace much, but it was quite significant, right? Like maybe can you give us like some numbers there?
Yeah, so in terms of containers, it's not much, but it is essential. Again, considering that containers are used to move our day-to-day goods for the public, for the people, as well as containers are used to export niche grains, sunflower oil, and other food and frozen food. It is very important. So our estimations are that in general, the Danube river ports handling 5,000-6,000 TEU containers per month. In terms of grain, it is also it's increased a lot. Again, we talk about hundreds thousands of tons of grain per month. The volume is fluctuating, obviously, depending on the situation. But again, because of congestion and because river port infrastructure wasn't really designed to handle that much of cargo, and moreover, it's pretty old, right? It's pretty old because most of it was built a long time ago in USSR, back in USSR, and it wasn't really maintained well because again, there were no demand. Ports of Odessa were able to handle and close all the needs, all logistics needs that Ukraine needed. Danube river ports were used only for certain commodities such as metals or scrap or sometimes grains, but again, very niche and very like targeting, right? So, and right now it's blooming, and the economy there is flourishing. People making lots of money there, to be honest.
Interesting. And apart, like, so maybe like in general, like, so the current ports are Reni, Ismail, and Kalia, right? Is that like these are the big ones, or like any other kind of like when we see this shift, when we see this shift in facilities and movement, what has happened? What are other kind of like interesting kind of data points that you see on the ground?
I can say that stakeholders are trying to find any available spot alongside the river and build there something. For example, there is also a small ferry station. It's called Orlovka. Okay. Before the war, it was used to connect Romania and Ukraine and to cross the river with small barges, and trucks were coming in and out. Right now, they are they are also handling grain and other cargoes as a port, although they are not actually the port facility, but they are adapting whatever infrastructure they have and start doing it. And as well as other operators, there are many private operators investing money and investing time, especially time, because it's very time sensitive. If you want to make this investment worthy, you need to build it quickly and start working. I can tell you that at the beginning of war, people were very hesitant. They were expecting that war will not be taking that long, and everyone expected a peaceful settlement. In Ukraine wanted to stop it as soon as possible, and that's why probably for the first 4-6 months there were no major investment in the Danube. But then people realized that war is far from end, and they began run there and chasing those spots, those sweet spots along the river to build the infrastructure and save their businesses.
Interesting. And when you look at all of the logistics, there's right now a lot of, I guess, talk, right? I mean, now we know for certain, okay, you know, there might be some sort of new agreement, some sort of new deal coming in that, you know, will revive the Odessa port, and who knows? But like, there are loads of interesting alternatives, like how business is, you know, readjusting their plans, and like, what does it all like include? So we have one big kind of aspect, which is the Danube River, and then we have obviously landlines. Can you like give us a little bit like a picture how it looks like?
Yeah. So even during the grain deal, there were existing alternative routes for grains. Let's here just focus on grains, because obviously these alternative routes are also used for containers and truck shipping and moving all kinds of freight. But let's focus on grain. So two major destinations for grain shipment are Romania, Poland, and Baltic region, meaning Lithuania, Latvia. These countries are our neighboring countries that allow us to at least save some money on logistics and ship it to their ports to finally get the grain on the market. Ports of Gdańsk and Gdynia are used in Poland very often, and still for today these are major destinations. Port of Constanta in Romania is handling lots of Ukrainian grain, and these alternative routes include truck and rail modes of transport. So unfortunately, the railway system of Ukraine is different from the European one. Sure. The width of the rail is in Ukraine is wider, so it's a big obstacle, it's a big issue, and what we need to do is swap those buggies, right? Every time you cross the border, it's very time consuming, also expensive, and the inventory of these rail buggies is very limited, because nobody was ready to handle Ukrainian grain, especially in Poland or Romania. Their infrastructure and especially rails were not designed for it. Right now, as far as I see in the news and data, railway in Poland and around, in general in Europe, is at capacity. I mean, not literally at capacity, but they cannot handle anymore as they handle right now.
It's interesting. So let's make a wild guess. Out of the, let's say, amount that could have been handled by Odessa, let's say there is no deal. Let's go for this scenario. Like, how much can be done through, you know, the alternatives? Like, is it like 30%? Is it 50%? Like, I would be surprised if it's higher, but please.
The expectation is, I believe that over 10 million tons can be handled by alternative routes, but the question is, who will be buying this grain? Because at the end of the day, the final buyer need to pay for logistics as well. Comparing if you compare our grain, the price for the grain, and you can, let's say you take the Russian one, Russia does not have logistics problems, and they don't need to include the freight of moving grain to foreign countries, foreign ports. So the extra logistics makes the grain very expensive. Grain is being handled by Germany and by German ports and by Italian ports, various ports. But again, at the end of the day, our key markets might not be able to cover these expenses, and they will just refuse buying grain from Ukraine.
Can we just like quickly, so the main buyers right now, I mean, so it's China, I think, is the biggest. Like, what are the other ones?
Egypt.
Right.
It's one of the biggest. Right now, during the war, market is changing. Turkey is buying a lot of Ukrainian grain. However, what they do, they resell it. Next one is Saudi Arabia, right? And in general, Middle East region, very important for Ukrainian grain, and it's our key market. And then European Union as well is buying our grain a lot, again, because of logistics problems. Prior to the war, European Union wasn't our major destination, but now it does. It is. So let's say China, right? We talk about wheat. China is still buying a lot of Ukrainian wheat. However, Ukraine is one of the top producers of corn. And what happens right now, Ukrainian corn is being replaced by Brazilian one, which is produced and shipped to China. So again, unfortunately, Ukraine is losing its positions on the grain market, again, because of the war, because of logistics problems, and because of the grain deal is ended.
When you crunch these numbers, like what kind of price increase through these different logistics would we be talking?
Sometimes, so if you take just the price of 1 ton of grain, the price increased significantly, mainly from 10 to 25% at least, depending on the commodity, right? It could be wheat, grain, it could be other niche grains, but the price of logistics and the price of freight is very, very high. And also, as far as I know, very large bulk carriers, we're not able to call Odessa ports, again, because of insurance rates, and those companies were refusing to cover the risks. So again, if you use smaller boats, you eventually you're paying more for logistics. The bigger boat, the less you pay for logistics. And logistics right now is a big problem for Ukraine. And again, Russia is trying to cut off Ukraine from the Black Sea completely.
And, like you're talking to, different clients, and, I guess like the outlook questions always comes up, right? And if you kind of try to nail this down, and, obviously there are different data points, there's a lot of political stuff that it can be kind of hard to assess. But if you kind of give them the scenarios, what kind of short-term and medium scenarios do you see from where we are at today?
Considering that grain deal ended just recently,
right,
and taking into account that recent attack on Danube River, I would try to give short term. scenario. So Odessa ports will be still a target, and they will be attacked every day. Not every day, I mean, just not literally, but still, they will be attacked until the infrastructure is destroyed enough so Ukraine is not able to use these ports. I can tell that for the last 5-7 days, our ports are being targeted every day, really heavily, and specifically into grain handling facilities. Next, Danube River. Unless enough air defense system will be brought to the ports of the Danube River, these ports will be also under attack. In the short term, it's going to cause the disruption in logistics. It's going to increase the freight rates. The number of available vessels will drop, meaning less ship owners will be actually willing to risk their boats and their crew and their reputation as well to enter the Danube River ports. Again, it's also increasing the freight for those who is ready to risk, right? In the short term, unless I can say that unless there is a new deal or some kind of agreement, Ukraine will be cut and limited to only alternative ports. Those, as I mentioned, Romania, Poland, and any other port that will be able, firstly, to handle that much of grain, and also will be giving good rates, right? Because we need good rates. We don't need people that are willing just to make money on the grain, because again, it's not the Ukrainian problem only, right? It's a worldwide problem. If you cut off Ukrainian grain from the market, it is a food crisis. So, and it's developing, right? The problem is growing. We're gonna see what's gonna happen in winter. It's also it's gonna be it is very concerning me that Ukrainian farming industry is really under big threat right now.
Wow. Danil, when you you are on the ground, you are talking to many people. Like I'm just an observer from far away. What kind of intelligent question should I have asked you that you have on your mind?
The question is how many what more how can I compensate, or what can I do with my grain? People, I'm sure many people don't know what to do with the grain they already have. There are many facilities full of grain, and because of the high price of logistics, they keep it and they don't ship it, because if they ship it, they're gonna just lose the money. The logistics will basically eat up every profit. So yeah, people don't know what to do with the existing grain, and because of the grain deal and it's ended, they have no plans for future. Like if a person doesn't really know what to do with the grain, it's actually happened a few months ago, like before the grain deal. Lots of grains, tons of it was rotten on the ground. Because
how long does it, like, can you store it? But like, I guess there are different factors that would determine that. But like, what's the timeline for them?
It really depends on the facility, right? If you keep it in a specifically designed the facility, it's like a tank. Yeah, you can keep it for a long time, really, like year plus and more. But if you keep it on the floor, like in a warehouse, there is really a high risk it's gonna molt and just go bad. So it depends. But again, the better facility, the higher price for storage, and you can't keep it forever, right?
Right.
Moreover, you want to compensate the storage. price you've paid. So the math is very, very simple. And right now farmers are losing money, definitely. And again, if they don't make money this year, no crop next year, or they just not gonna risk it again.
Danil, before we wrap this up, where can people follow the work that you are doing still under these, difficult kind of like situation? And like, how can people like best reach out to you and see like, what you're doing apart from Cassandra?
All our material is posted on LinkedIn group we have there. Again, it's like we have small community of people who are interested in the Black Sea in general. Because prior to the war, our main focus was on the container market of the Black Sea and on Ukraine specifically. Again, since Ukrainian ports on the Black Sea cut off from the market, we refocused, and right now we work closely with stakeholders on the bulk and containers. I'm available on LinkedIn. I believe it's really, really a good platform to get in touch and start the communication. So yeah, feel free.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time, Danil. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thanks.